Lots happening right now in our region.
Perch patterns have been working really well.
The bite has been good.
Just keep snapping it off the body.
The down imaging, the side imaging. There's a lot of different variations and different ways to rig this.
Oh, yeah! Look at this giant.
They are heavy.
Oh, look at that.
On this week's show, we're talking panfish mastery. This is AnglingBuzz TV. I'm Troy Linder.
And I'm Joel Nelson.
You know, here in Minnesota, we just had walleye opener. Very big deal. But I would bet that pretty much all walleye fishermen across the upper Midwest were introduced to fishing by panfish, and this is a great time of year to be targeting them.
Yeah, absolutely. Pan fishing, it's how I got my start. I'm sure it's how you got your start. You can start off the dock, cast a couple bobbers, hooks, and worms. It's about as simple as it gets. But I tell you, when people think walleye opener, I start to think panfish because that's when it gets really good. I mean, those crappies are up in the shallows first. They spawn in droves, and they're the first ones out of the gates. Then bluegills follow them up not long after, all the way into June. So you've got a solid 2 months of excellent pan fishing on the horizon.
And what are a few areas to look for regardless of what body of water you're on to target them?
3 big ones to hit no matter where you're at. First place I look actually is brush for crappies. Brush piles, they love them. They tuck inside, they can roam throughout. The second one, especially on the muddy lakes, you've got lily pad root stems. These rhizome root balls are great places because that can be sometimes the only structure in those lakes. And the third one is a classic northern Minnesota, north central region, Midwest pattern of bulrushes and pencil reeds. Those shallows load up, and that's great cover for those crappies at the beginning of the spawn.
Yes, they are for sure. And right now, let's take a closer look at panfish mastery. What is your favorite fish? Midwestern anglers have some very diverse fishing opportunities. You name the target species and we have them both in size and numbers. Many of our hardcore anglers like to pursue the glory fish like walleye, muskie, trout, and salmon. And what about the so-called rough fish like sturgeon, carp, cats, dogs, and sheep? Yeah, we got them all. Interestingly, panfish, crappie, and sunfish, the smallest game fish, are the favorites of many fishermen. Why? Well, it could be both easy action and great table fare, or the fact that most fishermen are introduced to the sport via panfish. Seasonal timing is important to catch any species of fish. Spring pan fishing is easy because the fish are predictably concentrated in shallow bays and channels. In other words, they're relatively easy to find. With polarized sunglasses, you'll often see schools of panfish in shallow cover, like wood, bulrushes, and lily pad fields. Like all game fish, panfish make dramatic seasonal movements. And to be a true panfish master, you have to be willing to move with them. After spawning, both crappies and bluegills tend to move to main lake weed beds to spend most of the summer. This is when good electronics are critical to find and catch panfish. But not too many people target these fish throughout the summer months. As water temperatures start to drop and fall, crappies start gathering in large schools around deep water basins. Bluegill make similar movements too, but tend to hold on weed edges in the cold water period. In recent years, fisheries managers in many states are now implementing more special regulations and experimenting with size limits and lowering bag limits to maintain quality panfishing. As with all game fish, but especially panfish, selective harvest is the key to maintaining quality fisheries for future generations. When we think about panfish, as opposed to other fish species that are much bigger, we don't necessarily think that they live long, but these panfish bluegills can live a decade and longer.
Yeah, absolutely. These big fish are old fish. And you know, Minnesota has done a really good job of protecting these fish species. There's special regs lakes, special reg size limits, a number of fish that you can take in those lakes. So they've done a really good job of trying to protect that resource for the future.
Yeah, and what are a couple things that we can do as anglers to ensure that we have great pan fishing years to come?
You know, that's a great question, Troy. And I think first and foremost, it's absolutely all about spreading the love, making sure when you do go to a lake, you don't keep coming back to the same lake again and again and again and beating up on the same population of fish. If you can spread that to other lakes, well, you can increase your take without detrimentally impacting the resource on one specific lake. And you know, that's the second point, which is selective harvest. That's what that's all about. Selective harvest is all about not detrimentally hurting a lake by high grading or taking too many big fish out of the system. If you let go some of those bigger fish, keep some smaller fish to eat, you're actually going to promote good genetic health of that overall population and lake itself. So the third and final point is, as grandparents, as parents, do a good job with your kids. Do as I say and as I do, right? Make sure to show them the benefits of releasing fish. Keep a couple for the pan and enjoy it for the years to come.
Yeah, it is a delicate balance, and the responsibility ultimately lies with us anglers. After this short commercial break, we have our highlight destination feature and the first of our Buzz Bite reports as Angling Buzz continues.
Looking for the perfect fishing vacation? Leech Lake, Minnesota. There's over 112,000 acres of water to explore, with fantastic walleye, bass, pike, panfish, and trophy muskies. The fishing opportunities are endless. Leech Lake has it all, with over 30 resorts, lodges, campgrounds, and hotels line its pristine shores. Plan your trip. It's Minnesota's original up-north vacation destination.
If you're looking at this, how do you know it's not this? If you see this, how do you know it's not actually this? Trust your AquaView and you'll see the real underwater world. AquaView leads by innovation. First in high definition, first in handheld viewing, the finest underwater optics, the brightest, sharpest screens, the original underwater camera, and the fish finder that puts you on the fish.
Sportfish Michigan is your #1 source for top charter captains and fishing guides in Michigan. Our network of professionals are full-time anglers with years of experience providing customers with the best possible fishing trip services. Fish for trout, salmon, steelhead on Lake Michigan or its famous tributary rivers, the Traverse City area's world-class smallmouth bass, walleye fishing on the Detroit River and Saginaw Bay, or northern Michigan's spectacular ice fishing. We do it all. Sportfish Michigan. Get out. Get bit.
I got one!
Welcome back to AnglingBuzz TV. Today we're talking panfish. Now Joe, you've had the opportunity to fish across the upper Midwest into Canada, all over for panfish. What are some of your favorite areas?
You know, first one that comes to mind is actually the Dakotas. The Prairie Pothole region and glacial lakes there are awesome. You've got Oahe that's just been blowing up for crappies over the years. I can think of closer to home, southern Minnesota, and specifically the Mississippi River area. Those backwaters are great for all kinds of panfish species. And then more recently, you know, both ice and open water, I've been fishing, you know, Grand Rapids area, Hackensack area, all the way up into northwestern Ontario, and it's been some phenomenal fishing. And also those, you know, there's kind of an area around the prairie forest border in Minnesota where that Alexandria area has been really good to me lately as well.
Yeah, Alexandria is known obviously for big walleye, great bass fishing, but there's some great pan fishing there too. Let's take a closer look at Alexandria. In west central Minnesota, the Alexandria area is dotted with over 350 lakes for fishermen to explore, and with some of the best walleye lakes within minutes of downtown Alexandria. Darling, Lahamadou, Carlos, and Ida, just to name a few. The town was bustling last weekend with the walleye opener bringing anglers in from near and far. Other lakes to check out in the area for a good walleye bite is Lake Osakis, Miltona, and Mary. There's no slot limit on these lakes for walleye. Anglers are allowed the statewide regulation of 6 walleyes with 1 over 20 inches, and the DNR has stocked millions of walleyes in the area lakes, providing hot action for years to come. But there's more to the area than just walleye. There are countless lakes, big and small, for panfish too. A nice, calm, sunny day's sunfish and crappie should be inhabiting the shallow bays and reed beds this time of year. If they haven't moved up or the conditions are less than ideal, check the emerging weed beds adjacent to these areas where they will eventually spawn. Largemouth and smallmouth is open for catch and release until bass opener, which starts May 26 this year. Most lakes in the area have great largemouth bass habitat. Lakes like Ida hold a good population of smallmouth, with many more and increasing population each year. One of the other great bonuses of the Alexandria area, there are lots of activities for the whole family to do on and off the water. With many of the area's lakes hosting resorts and campgrounds where swimming, tubing, and other water sports can fill their day with activities. You're not staying at the lake? There's still plenty of public beaches for swimming and picnicking. Then come evening, cruise up to one of the lakeside bars and restaurants, like Deck Bar and Grill at Arrowhead Resort on Darling Lake, or head downtown with tons of shops, restaurants, and museums within an easy walk. The Alexandria area. When you're surrounded by this much water, there's no end to the fun you can have. As you can see, the Alexandria region offers great activities and fishing too. Now, Joel, you have a little family history when it comes to Alexandria.
Yeah, actually the 1940s and 50s, long before I was alive, my grandpa started making trips there, and I've got some really neat family photos of great big bluegills over the years caught there, and I know I spent a lot of time there, when I was in my college years and beyond, so it's a wonderful area, and I think part of the reason is hey, we're just outside of walleye opener here, and walleyes get a huge focus in that area because there are great walleye lakes. Bass fishing gets a lot of interest there too. But I tell you what, because of that, there's so many sleepers that panfish kind of slide under the radar, and it's been really good for really long.
Yeah, there's just a ton of water there to fish and explore. Well, right now we're joining Nick Linder with the first of our Buzz Bite reports.
For our first report, we're going to stick in the Alexandria region with Joe Segura, where he shares some of his favorite early season walleye baits.
I'm going to say it more than a few times this summer, but we have ultra clear water, so you have to adapt or you could struggle up here. Something as simple as double hooking a minnow so it stays on. If your minnow's dead, it's going to be tough to get bit up here. They can see so well and they can really investigate it, so keep lively bait, whether it's a lindy rig here or a jig. Just make sure you have nice lively bait on. Come dark, low light areas or a lot of current, you can get by with a lot more. You can even throw a plastic on a jig like that, or some of my go-to here, throw some of these crankbaits. X-Wrap, Husky Jerk, or my favorite probably is a balsa wood jointed. You can turn that one, or reel it in really slow, get some of those huge females to bite, and then anywhere near those current, there's going to be a lot of bait. So those are my go-to lures early in the season.
Thanks, Joe. Now for our next report, we're going to head over to Michigan with Captain Ben Wolf.
It's early May and we're still down here on the Detroit River jigging walleyes. We're in the middle of the walleye run and this is a fantastic time to be here. Lots and lots of great eater size, 15 to 18 inch fish. And this run will continue all the way through May and well into June is what we're expecting. Up in northern Michigan on Grand Traverse Bay, we're starting to see a really good Cisco and lake trout bite happening. It's still cold water in the low 30s to upper 30s, and we're seeing those fish starting to come in to aggressively feed. They're in that 50-foot range. Blade baits, jigging spoons are great options to target these aggressively feeding fish.
Yeah, that trout and salmon bite looks like a lot of fun, and I'd like to get over there myself. Now stay tuned because we have more reports to come as Angling Buzz continues.
According to Minnesota's Department of Natural Resources, in 2017, 97% of boaters surveyed by watercraft inspectors followed Minnesota's clean, drain, dispose laws. Let's keep it this way. Clean aquatic plants and animals from boats, trailers, and equipment. Drain all water from watercraft, including the motor, and keep drain plugs out during transport. Dispose of unused bait properly. Together, we're preventing the spread of aquatic invasive species in Minnesota.
Lake Vermilion. Explore. Relax. reconnect. Minnesota's most beautiful lake.
Get hooked on our trophy walleye,
That's a beauty.
bass,
My favorite fish.
musky fish,
That's a beauty there.
Things to do? You'll never get bored.
Rooms with a view? We got 'em.
Lake Vermilion, 4 seasons of fun.
Having spent a lifetime fishing all over North America, I know a lot about water, wind, and waves. Water can be an inviting place, and yet at the same time, it can also be very unforgiving. With a simple push of a button, this fully adjustable Smooth Moves air suspension is designed to tame the waves and give you a smooth and comfortable ride no matter what conditions you face. Tame the water, wind, and waves with Smooth Moves.
Explore Alexandria, Minnesota. Whether it's a long weekend or a week-long loaded with family fun, you'll find plenty of things to do in Alex. Unleash your inner explorer with over 300 lakes, beaches, parks, hundreds of miles of trails, dining, golf, shopping, museums, and history. Alexandria is Minnesota's hidden gem. Go to explorealex.com to find your vacation this season.
Welcome back to Angling Buzz. For our next report, we're going to head over to Leech Lake with Toby Cavalivog for some early season walleye tips.
It's early ice out conditions. The water temperature is cold. It's hard to find spot-tail shiners. What does that mean? The walleyes are still chasing the spot-tail shiners. We just have to find the walleyes. So when the water's a little bit colder, they move out deeper chasing the shiners. If it's calm, it's hard. You got to cast for them. I like to use 1/8 ounce jigs. Put a spot-tail shiner minnow on there if I can find it. If not, I like to use something like a plastic or even a rainbow chub. Let me show you some of my other favorite jigs. This week we're using stand-up jigs, casting it out and kind of just dragging it back. The Arrowhead Tackle Company's got some glitter jigs, and here are your Ken Catch jigs. You have the 3DI and a shiner jig, hooked 2 different ways on the minnow. And if you can't find minnows, plastics are working too. These are Schwarzanker McRubbers, hook 2 shiner jigs from Ken Catch Tackle. Those are some of your favorites. Another key was to use my side imaging. Side imaging on Leech Lake shows those walleyes when they're off to the side of the boat, up in the shallow water. But it's early ice out conditions and the fish are biting.
Thanks, Toby. Now let's head up to Lake Vermilion with Billy Rosner.
This late ice out this year, a lot of your walleyes are in shallow yet. I'd say, you know, that 10, 12 feet or less of water. Work those areas with a light jig and a nice rainbow minnow. You should get some walleyes. If that's not working out for you, Vermilion fishes really well as a rig lake, and this slow 0.5, 0.7, you should get some walleyes out of those areas. Also in the evening, I like to work shoreline, some of your islands with crankbaits. I like to Rapala scatter wrap, fan cast those, pin down with my talon, move a little bit, pin down, cast those areas, or you can long troll in some of those areas too, long line troll. These warmer days too, our soft bottom bays are starting to warm up. Those crappies are just staging out there, a little deeper water like that first break. Use your electronics and you should be able to get into some good crappie action. Have a great week and be safe out there.
Thanks, Billy. Now let's check in with Central Minnesota guide Tony Roach.
Hey, I'm Tony Roach. I'm standing on the shores of Lake Mille Lacs in Garrison, Minnesota, underneath the big walleye. What I love about late ice out seasons like this is the water is going to be extremely cool and it's going to be extremely clear, but those walleyes are going to be jam-packed in the shallow waters. Whether it's rock reefs, sand flats, even old weed beds, those walleyes are going to be up there doing their thing, and guess what? They're going to be feeding. But the biggest key element is remaining quiet, getting in stealthy, and pitching away from the boat, not fishing right below the boat. The fish are going to be spooky, so as long as you're pitching, you're going to be catching fish. Some of my favorite ways to catch walleyes in shallow water situations are jigs and shiners, jigs and plastics, rip and wrap, or crankbaits. All great options and all really fun options for catching fish. You know, the one thing about Mille Lacs is it's a walleye factory, so this is going to be a great option for catching a ton of fish.
Yeah, great point, Tony. All over this region, it's been shallow, shallow, shallow for the early season walleyes. Now for the next report, we're going to head over to northern Wisconsin with Jeff Evans.
And I can show you right here, this is what our opening weekend here in Wisconsin has been all about. Big pre-spawn crappies and perch. I'll tell you what we're doing. We're just looking for the warmest water we could possibly find. 48 degrees to 52 degrees is the temperature range that we found, and the fish that we caught today were up in 3 feet of water. We also caught walleyes today that were spawning fish, and those fish were up in 5 to 6 feet of water. So everything's definitely moving shallow to find the warmest water they can. Lake Superior also has a good trolling bite going on up on the south shore. Trout and salmon are being caught, and those fish are in the top 15 to 10 feet of the water column.
Thanks, Jeff. Now, as you guys have heard over and over again, the shallow water bite has been key in this late ice out season. Now make sure to stay tuned because we have cool products followed by the technique of the week as Angling Buzz continues.
Some lodges are just a cut above. Hawk Lake is one of those. They're the only Orvis-endorsed lodge in all of Ontario, and they're the 4-time finalists for the best Orvis lodge in all of North America. They feature cordon bleu trained chefs and offer some of the best freshwater fishing in the world. You can target trophy walleye, smallmouth bass, pike and lake trout on any of their 19 private lakes. Whether you fish with traditional gear or love fly fishing, Hawk Lake has you covered.
You have a choice, turf or surf. It's fishing season. Welcome to the outdoors. We're baiting, casting, drifting, and limiting out. The outdoors never felt so good. Catch, release, and keepers. The outdoors never tasted so good. It's fishing season. We are outdoors. Mills Fleet Farm.
Sportsmen. We're truck people. We're gear people. We're Radco people. Top brands like Lear, Access, WeatherTech, Kurtz, and more. Price match guarantee. Exceptional service. Professional installation. Researched, tested, approved. Radco. When your truck looks good, you look good.
Now it's time for a cool products segment brought to you by Mills Fleet Farm. We are talking panfish. So we're going to start out right here with some blade baits. This is this little spinner bait from VMC. Really nice little boot tail soft plastic back on that. And then from Mr. Crappie Walleye. Marshall, you have this Spin Daddy, a little bit different. You got a hair, little trailer on the back like that. Nice little action. And from Rapala, you know they make hard baits, they make crankbaits. They also make ultralight finesse baits for panfish. There's a variety of them. They come in different shapes, little light crankbaits, little like jerk baits here, really, really nice. Sinking baits, really great for casting and getting down a little bit deeper. And even smaller profile baits from Impulse. Right here you can see these are nice and tiny when they're finicky. Really, really good. They come pre-rigged as well as some extra backup soft plastics. They have a little minnow profile, a little bug profile, a lot of different colors. This is the Impulse line, little Impulse panfish jigs from Northland Tackle. And if you do bobber fishing, well, you know Thill and you know Northland Tackle. Here's a few different for you to pick from. The Light Bite Bobber from Northland Tackle has a nice little brass top, very high visibility. Balsa wood inside here, so you know that it is high quality. Excellent. And from Thill by Lindy Little Joe, these are also excellent for fishing. And after you catch your fish, it's time to fillet them. You know Rapala makes some great fillet knives. Here's a couple different sizes, a 4-inch and a 7.5-inch. It's good to have a couple different size knives in your arsenal. They come in a nice little leather sheath. Birch handle, stainless steel blade, also comes with a sharpener right here. This is from Rapala, the fish and fillet knife in the 4-inch and 7.5-inch size. And fishing line. Northland Tackle has a panfish fishing series right here. 3-pound test, and you can even go up to 6-pound test if you're fishing around reeds or thicker weeds. Really, really great. The Bionic Pan Fishing line series from Northland Tackle. And here's a nice rod and reel combo. These are sold separately. This is St. Croix Panfish series. This is a 7-foot light power rod. Really, really nice action. Great sensitivity. You get the St. Croix quality. This is the Legalis from Daiwa. It's a nice low profile spinning reel. It pairs really well with this for lighter line. This is a 1,000 size spool here, so it's great if you're fishing 3-pound to 6-pound test. Really, really great from Daiwa and St. Croix. All these products are available at your local Mills Fleet Farm store. You can also get them online at fleetfarm.com. And right now it's time for a Technique of the Week. We are joining Joe Nelson, and he's going to go over some panfish rods.
You know, traditionally, a lot of anglers have been willing to invest in rod technology when it comes to bass, walleye, muskies, any kind of predator species, but for whatever reason, panfish rods haven't gotten their fair share of interest. But I'm here to tell you that longer rods, when it comes to pan fishing in general, are a great benefit to the angler. Not only do you get better leverage, you get further casting, you get backbone. You know, this rod being an extra fast action really only flexes the last quarter of the rod. And that's really what you want. Fast and extra fast actions are what give you all that hook setting power, that backbone, and a lot of people don't think you need that for bluegills. I'm here to tell you, with light line, big wind, clear water, long casts, bobbers, all that leverage and all that backbone really makes a difference in your catch at the end of the day. This is a 7-foot St. Croix Panfish Series rod. It's actually a light power, but with a fast action. Now the difference is this light power isn't an ultralight. It's not a whippy noodle rod by any means. And it's got a fast action, meaning that out towards the tip is where most of the flex is, but you're getting to the backbone quickly, and that's the key to these better panfish rods. Faster actions means better leverage, better hook sets, you can cast further, and everything's gonna function the way it should when you go out to catch more panfish.
We want to thank Joe for joining us this week and sharing his knowledge on panfish, as well as offering some great tips.
Yeah, absolutely, Troy. And you know, when a lot of people think about panfish rods, they're thinking of shorter rods, but in reality, there's a lot of utility to using longer rods. But make sure to check in for next week's episode, because we're going to be talking about finding fish.
It's going to be great. And as always, we want to remind you to help stop the spread of aquatic invasive species anytime you leave any body of water clean, drained, and dry.
And don't forget to check us out online at AnglingBuzz.com for the latest in fishing information from our region.
And you can also enter our sweepstakes to win an awesome weekend on Leech Lake. Thank you for joining us. I'm Troy Linder.
And I'm Nick Linder. We'll see you next week.
This week's Buzz Bite Report.
Tony Roach.
Bray Brolstone.
Lee Telkin here.
Brad Durick up here on the Red River.
Muskegon River.
Leech Lake.
Devil's Lake.
Beautiful Lake Vermilion.
Black.
Topwater's been really, really fun.
Go to the plastics.
Bass like this.
A lot of walleyes like that.
Giant bluegills.
From Sturgeon Bay.
Lake Sakakawea. Lake Winnie region.
Northern Wisconsin. Good luck, everybody.
Have fun.
We'll see you next week.